Have you ever felt like you're playing a game, but you don't actually know all the rules? Like some people just get handed the playbook at birth, while the rest of us are kind of fumbling in the dark? Well, you're not just imagining it. There really are invisible scripts that shape so much of our lives, and one brilliant sociologist gave us the toolkit to finally read them. That's what we're going to get into today.
And that's really the big question, isn't it? It's a puzzle that goes way beyond just money or luck. It's about how certain advantages, certain ways of being, just seem to persist, often without anyone forcing the issue. It's all about those unwritten rules and unspoken power structures that quietly shape everything around us.
So the guy who handed us the decoder ring for all of this was a French sociologist named Pierre Bourdieu. And what's so fascinating about him is that he was the ultimate outsider. He started off not knowing the rules himself, which, it turns out, gave him the perfect vantage point to see them clearly.
I mean, look at this journey. He starts out in a small rural town in the south of France, from a pretty modest background. Then, in the 50s, he gets into the top schools in Paris, and he feels like a total fish out of water, a provincial kid with the wrong accent, you know? That feeling gets even more intense when he's doing field work in Algeria. And yet, he climbs all the way to the absolute peak of French intellectual life. That journey, from the very edge to the very center, is what allowed him to see the whole game.
And he knew it too. He said it right there. Being an outsider wasn't his weakness, it was his superpower. It meant he could notice all the tiny little things, the gestures, the jokes, the assumptions that the insiders just took for granted. He could spot the rules of the game precisely because he didn't grow up already playing it.
So, how did he actually do it? How did he map out this invisible social world? Well, he developed this incredibly powerful toolkit, and it's built around three core ideas: field, habitus, and capital. Let's break down what these really mean. The best way to think about it is to stick with that game analogy because it's perfect. To understand any game, you first need to know where you're playing. That's the field. Then you need to understand how the players instinctively move and think. That's their habitus. And finally, you have to know what kind of chips they're betting with, and that's their capital. Okay, first up, the field. Bourdieu's huge insight here was that society isn't just one giant game. It's actually made up of a bunch of different, smaller playing fields. Think about it. The art world, the political arena, the scientific community, even your own workplace. Each one of these is its own field with its own unique set of rules, its own prizes, and its own ideas about what's actually valuable. A brilliant move in the business world might get you absolutely nowhere in the field of poetry.
All right, next is habitus. This one can be a little tricky, but it's so important. This is your feel for the game. And it's not something you think about. It's way deeper. It's embodied. It's the collection of instincts and habits you've picked up from your entire life. It's that gut feeling that makes you feel totally at home in one situation, but maybe completely awkward and out of place in another. It's knowing, without even thinking, how to talk, how to stand, what to wear to just fit.
So, if the field is the game board and habitus is your gut instinct for how to play, what are your game pieces? What are you playing with? Bourdieu called this capital. And here is where he really changed the game, because he argued that capital isn't just about cash. There are a whole bunch of different currencies you can use in the social world.
Let's break it down. Of course, you've got economic capital. That's the easy one. It's money and assets. But then there's cultural capital, your education, your taste in music and art, even the way you speak. Super important. There's also social capital. That's literally who you know, your network. And finally, there's symbolic capital, which is all about prestige, reputation, and honor. To win in any given field, you really need the right mix of all these different types of capital.
Okay, now we're getting to one of Bourdieu's most powerful and maybe most challenging ideas. When you have all these different fields and currencies in play, how does the whole system keep itself going? How does inequality become so durable?
This is the million-dollar question, right? Power isn't always about cops or armies. A lot of the time, it's way more subtle than that. People often just go along with systems that don't really seem to benefit them. So, why? How does that actually work?
Bourdieu's answer was a concept he called symbolic violence. Now, it sounds intense, but it's not about physical harm. It's when the tastes and the values of the most powerful people in a field get treated as the only right ones. Their way of speaking is labeled eloquent. Their taste in art is called sophisticated. And pretty soon, everyone, and I mean everyone from the top to the bottom, starts to believe it. We accept these rules as just normal, as common sense. We internalize the game, even if we're set up to lose.
So, what's the point of all this? Is this whole thing just a super depressing breakdown of a system we can't ever escape? Not for Bourdieu, not at all. For him, understanding the rules of the game was the absolute first step to being able to change it.
This is probably his most famous quote, and it says everything. He didn't see sociology as some passive academic thing you do from an armchair. He saw it as a martial art, a form of self-defense. By making the hidden rules visible, by understanding our own habitus and our own capital, we actually get the power to push back. Knowledge, for Bourdieu, is a weapon for liberation.
And that really brings it all back to you. The whole point of this toolkit is to use it. So think about your own life for a second. Your job, your hobbies, your different circles of friends. What are the unwritten rules of those fields? What kinds of capital matter most? And how does your own ingrained feel for the game either help you or hold you back? Once you start looking, you can start decoding the games you're playing every single day.